When I moved into that house, I truly thought I was starting over. I wanted peace, silence, a place that felt like mine again. And at first, the house looked harmless, small, quiet, almost comforting. But some types of silence don't mean peace. Some silences mean something is watching. The first thing that bothered me was the doormat. I always straightened it before leaving, aligning it with the threshold perfectly. But every single day when I came home, it was shifted. Not much, just a few inches, always to the same side, as if someone had stepped on it while standing right at my door. I told myself it was the mailman, then maybe a friendly neighbor, maybe even the wind. But the more I fixed it, the more it moved. It didn't matter if I was gone for 5 minutes or 5 hours. The mat always changed, and that tiny detail began to follow me around like a shadow. Then things inside the house began to move. Small things, things only someone who lives alone would notice. A glass I left in the sink would appear on the counter. The living room window, which I never opened at night, would be slightly cracked open in the morning. My curtains, always fully closed at bedtime, would have a narrow gap facing the street, or facing inward. Then came the clothes. A shirt disappeared from my drawer and reappeared folded the wrong way. Socks I had thrown into the laundry basket ended up inside a kitchen drawer. And then the worst part, my underwear hanging on the indoor drying rack started to go missing. First one piece, then another, then two at once. I told myself they fell, or maybe I misplaced them, but deep down I knew they didn't. That was the first time I felt something was very wrong, either with the house or with me. I wondered if I was exhausted, stressed, distracted. I started doubting myself more than anything else around me. Then my body began to betray me. I started waking up as if I had a hangover, even though I hadn't touched alcohol. Dizzy, weak, heavy. My muscles felt soft, unresponsive, as if I hadn't slept in the position I remembered falling asleep in. Some mornings I could barely lift my arms. Days went by like that. Confusion, fatigue, a fog that didn't make sense, and then came the mornings that broke me. I began waking up in places I didn't remember going to first, the couch, then the living room floor, then my bed with the light still lines, then on the carpet next to the wall dot. It always felt the same, like someone had unplugged me and plugged me back in without my participation. The night that finally shattered me happened silently. I woke up suddenly, I didn't know why, and for a split second, I saw a shadow entering my bedroom. I didn't hear the steps. I didn't hear the door. I just saw the silhouette, tall, still present. My body froze. I blinked, and it was gone. I fell back asleep, the kind of heavy sleep that doesn't belong to fear, the kind of sleep that feels unnatural. The next morning, I sat at the edge of my bed, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself it had been a dream. But my body knew it wasn't. I knew I had seen someone. And if I was sleeping heavy enough to not wake up with someone entering my room, then everything else suddenly made sense. That was the day I bought the camera. Small, cheap, easy to hide. I didn't want proof, because proof meant admitting I was living inside a nightmare, but I needed it. The police doesn't care about I feel like someone was here. On the first night recorded, I left my cold tea on the table, the same one I always kept in the fridge and drank before bed, and when I watched the footage the next day, my stomach dropped. I appeared on the video walking like I was drunk, swaying, stumbling, my eyes barely open. But I didn't remember feeling anything before bed. I didn't remember getting up. I didn't remember getting into bed. It felt like watching someone else use my body. I fast-forwarded the video. My heart pounding. Then the bedroom door slowly opened. A fraction at a time, silent, deliberate. A man walked in, tall, covered completely, hood, mask, gloves, every inch of him disguised. Not even his hair showed. A figure without identity, as if he intended to be impossible to recognize. He walked to my bed. I was unconscious, absolutely limp. A sleep that wasn't mine. He stood beside me for a long, long time, watching me breathe like someone studying something fragile. My hands trembled. My throat closed. I felt sick watching how exposed, powerless, and unaware I was. Then he sat on the edge of my bed, slowly, comfortably, like he belonged there. Like he had done it before. I cried watching. This was my room, my air, my body, and he was breathing all of it with me. He pulled my blanket up, smoothed my hair, leaned over me. Like he was smelling me. I ran to the bathroom to vomit, came back, forced myself to continue watching, tears streaming down my face. Over an hour passed since he walked in. Over an hour of me lying there like a doll, defenseless, and then, the moment that nearly stopped my heart, he stood up and walked directly toward the camera, straight to it, to the hidden corner, to the place I had been so careful about. He knew. He always knew. He leaned down, tilted his head to the right, and stared directly into the lens. Not at the camera, not at the device, at me. As if he knew I would one day watch him watching me, I slammed the laptop shut, grabbed my bag, my suitcase, shoved clothes and documents inside, and ran out of the house. I don't even remember locking the door. I just remember my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the ignition. I called my friends, sobbing so hard they couldn't understand what I was saying. They took me in that same night. I stayed with them for weeks until I found a place in another state. The police saw everything, every second, but they said there was nothing they could do. No face, no prints, no identity. Just a man who had planned everything too well. I never went back. I left furniture, clothes, dishes, everything, and even now, in a different state, in a different bed, with different locks, I sleep lightly, too lightly, because whenever I close my eyes, I still see that moment, his head tilting, his masked face inches from the lens, as if he were looking right at me. I never found out who he was, never learned how long he'd been in my home, never discovered what he wanted, but I know one thing. That night wasn't the first time he entered my room, and it wouldn't have been the last. I still remember the first night I noticed that car parked across the street, completely still, almost blending into the sidewalk like it had always been part of the neighborhood. The street was new to me. I had just moved in a few days earlier, and everything felt too quiet, too empty, the kind of silence where any little detail stands out like a warning. When I saw the car on the second and third nights, same time, same broken headlight, I felt that cold sting at the back of my neck, the kind your body gives you before your mind accepts that something is wrong. The driver never got out, never turned on the lights, never moved. He just sat there, facing the exact window of my bedroom, like he was studying my routines, memorizing my patterns, waiting for a moment when I wasn't paying attention. The fourth night, climbing the stairs to my place, I felt something was wrong before I even reached my door. The corridor felt narrower, the air heavier, like someone had been standing there just minutes before. On the doormat, I found a piece of paper folded twice, no envelope, no explanation. When I opened it, my name was written by hand, the letters slow and deliberate, almost intimate. The problem was, no one knew I lived there yet. I hadn't given my new address to anyone, not even at work. They still thought I was looking for apartments. The sensation was so invasive, it felt like someone had touched my face without permission. My hands shook as I folded the note and slipped it into my bag, trying to stop my body from running. The next night, the car disappeared. And for a few hours, I convinced myself that it had all been a coincidence, paranoia, exhaustion playing tricks on me. But at 3:14 a.m., I woke up to a faint, almost polite sound at my door. The doorknob was moving slowly, like someone was testing the lock, turning it millimeter by millimeter to avoid making noise. I froze in bed, listening with my breath stuck in my throat. After several long seconds, the sound stopped, like the person on the other side realized I was awake. I called the police, but they told me that without signs of forced entry or a direct threat, there was nothing they could do. I hung up the phone with the sinking feeling that my home, my only safe place, was no longer safe at all. The next day, I installed a small hidden camera in the hallway, pointed at the door, trying to regain some control over what was happening while I slept. That first night, I didn't have the courage to watch the footage. The second night, I skipped through it, seeing shadows that could have been reflections, noises that could have been pipes. But on the third night, something inside me whispered that I needed to watch every second. And that's when I found the clip that changed everything. At 2:59 a.m., the door opened slowly, as if someone already knew exactly how far to turn the key. A man walked inside. Not the driver I imagined. Not anyone I recognized. He moved calmly down the hallway, stopped at my bedroom door, and just stood there. Completely still, watching my sleeping body for 17 uninterrupted minutes. Not touching anything. Not taking anything, just watching me. I watched that footage without blinking, my stomach twisted, my skin feeling like it didn't belong to me anymore. The man knew where I lived, knew my schedule, knew how to get inside without waking me. The only thing I didn't know was what he wanted, and that was the part that broke me. Not the fact that he had been there, but the possibility that he could come back at any moment, without warning, without reason, without leaving a trace. Since that night, I haven't slept deeply. And anytime the wind brushes the doorknob, even lightly, my entire body remembers that someone has already been inside my home, watching me breathe like I was something he had been waiting for. The next day, still unsure how to keep living there, I went downstairs to pick up a package and found the woman from the ground floor sitting near the mailboxes. She noticed my pale face before I even spoke. I hesitated, but something in me needed to tell someone. When I mentioned the car, the note with my name, and the recording, her expression shifted instantly tight, fearful, almost as if she already knew the ending. She pulled me aside and told me this had happened before, to the woman who lived in my apartment 2 years earlier. Same signs, same noises, same feeling of being watched. Until one day, the previous tenant found a phone hidden behind the outlet in the bedroom, the camera pointed directly at the bed. The police never figured out who put it there. The neighbor avoided my eyes and whispered, "She moved out overnight," but the man was never found. When I moved to another state, I really thought I'd finally have some peace. I didn't know anyone there, and sharing a house with 3 other girls seemed like a good way to save money and not feel completely alone. But in reality, I almost never saw any of them. One worked night shifts, another spent days at her boyfriend's place, and the third was always out partying. The house was big with long hallways, and on nights when no one came home, it became uncomfortably silent. I tried to get used to it, but that forced kind of loneliness always left a weight in the air. One of those nights, I woke up with my phone in my hand. The screen showed that a voice recording had been running for exactly 6 minutes. I had no memory of touching my phone, let alone starting a recording. When I hit stop, my stomach twisted. I knew it wasn't me. I sat up in bed, took a deep breath, and put my headphones on to listen up at first. All I heard was my own silence. My room was always quiet, so I expected the recording to have some normal background noise. Maybe I'd rolled onto my phone while sleeping. But slowly, a sound began to stand out. Slow footsteps, like someone walking barefoot on the carpet. The rhythm was strange, uneven, like whoever it was didn't want to be heard. Then came something even worse, a breath. Very close. Not coming from my chest, not from my mouth, but from above me. It was heavy, almost damp, like someone was leaning over my bed while I slept. Halfway through the audio, I heard my blanket being moved just a little. Not the way I shift in my sleep, but the careful touch of someone checking if I was really asleep. My heart was racing. I knew no one had come home that night. I had checked the doors. Everything was locked. And even if someone had arrived late, I would have heard it. That breathing, it didn't belong to any of my roommates. When the recording was almost over, something happened that made my whole body freeze. A man's voice, low, almost brushing against the microphone, whispered, "You didn't wake me this time." I dropped my phone instantly. I didn't recognize that voice. No man had ever been inside our house, and the girls didn't bring guests over, especially not when they weren't home. The voice was too close, too intimate, Like it was meant for me. The next morning, I confronted the girls. None of them had come home the previous night. One had been working until 5 a.m. Another showed me pictures from a party nearly 40 kilometers away, and the third had slept at her sister's place. None of them had a reason to lie, and none of them had a man's voice hiding in their pockets. When I told them about the recording, they froze. A strange, uncomfortable silence filled the kitchen, until one of them said something I wish I had never heard. You know, the previous owner had a brother who wasn't very stable, right? I didn't know. No one had told me. She continued. He went missing. Before that, he used to come in without making a sound. He'd walk around the rooms. A lot of girls moved out because of him. That hit me like a stone to the chest. The next day, I checked every door and window. There were no signs of forced entry. No lock was broken. Nothing suggested anyone had entered. But someone had been in my room. Someone stood close enough to my face that his breath was caught on the recording. And the worst part is, whoever it was got in without leaving a trace and left the same way.